Welcome to the Black Tower. I'm your host, your guide, your brother, the sorcerer Armanasul. All right, been busy, been doing a lot of things, just trying to sort my life together, trying to piece it together, long-lasting workings. Oh my goodness, at the workings. Okay, however, today it's kind of inspiration. I've been meaning to do a video for the last 3 nights. However, and you can tell this is not night, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, Today I want to talk about magical responsibilities. Oh my goodness. And with that being said and done, let's get on with it. All right. So, in magic and ritual and in life in general, you give somebody your word. You say, "Oh, I promise," or "I'm going to do this," or "I'm going to do that," and you either fulfill your wording, so forth and so on, or you don't. Well, if you don't, you breed distrust. People don't trust you. They don't believe you, no matter what you say, no matter what you do. Well, it's really weird that in the sense of the spiritual world, your word is your bond, and your bond is a symbol of your will. And that's how keeping your word is so important because it affects your will. It strengthens it if you uphold it, so forth and so on. Hence why in earlier videos I was sitting there and I was saying, if you can't be truthful or honest with anybody else, at least be truthful and honest with yourself. Because one step at a time, if you're able to do the one, then eventually you'll be able to do the other, being honest and truthful with yourself, and then eventually you'll turn around and be able to be honest and truthful with others. You know, I'm I'm not ashamed of anything I've ever done. I've done a lot of shit in my life, as have a lot of you, I imagine. I'm sure. Uh, do I go around bragging about it? No, because it's just not in my nature. There's nothing to brag about. But if somebody says, "Oh, did you really do this?" I'll be like, "Yeah," or if I didn't, I'll be like, "No, but I was accused of that." So, and with that being said and done, let's get back to the thing at hand. Okay, so magical responsibility. If you've worked through the seven gates, uh, the planetary gates or whatever, I don't know if you're aware of it. I don't know if you've paid it any attention, but the planets seem to no longer have any effect or control over your life. Now, this is not to say that it won't affect others in your life and therefore, bleed over into yours, but to directly influence or affect you, the planets don't. Well, with that being said and done, I think it's very important that I kind of throw a thought out there, an idea, if you will, a truth concerning the whole thing. If you've done all the seven gates and you've done the abyss walkings and all this other stuff, and you've began working with the Azanai or whatever, oh, magical responsibility, magical responsibility, magical responsibility, as if saying it 3 times is going to make it any better or easier to swallow. Let us get to it. The thing about it is that by this point, at this time in your life, you will notice that it's okay for you to let your hair down and have an off day or just, whatever. But you can't allow yourself too much of that because everything seems to go to hell around you. Why is this? Because too much is given, much is expected. You know, with power comes great responsibility. And so you've stepped upon these spheres, you've sought power over them, now you have to take control and responsibility. Keyword there, responsibility. For your own life, your own actions, your own choices, your own decisions, so forth and so on. You can call upon the gods all day long, and so forth and so on to help you, but at the end of the day, you have to rely on your decisions and your choices. And this is called responsibility, much like, having a 9 to 5 job and having to show up on time and not miss too many days, so forth and so on, uh, if it can be helped. And the reason why is because you're taking responsibility. Now, this may seem like a mundane responsibility, but the heart of it is a spiritual responsibility because you've cleansed the closets, you've dusted the rooms, so forth and so on. you've cleaned out your closet, so to speak, you've conversed with the abominations, you began doing this, began doing that. And these things are now on a roll. They're now moving in accord to your desire, your will, your design, if you will. But the thing about it is they cannot be left to their own devices, or they will. Well, if you ever saw the Walt Disney classic, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, what happens when he thought magic was going to be easy and simple, and that just let the magic broom do all the cleaning, get everything else to clean it. It made a mess. It almost destroyed the shop, almost killed him. Well, same can be said about our lives. When you step up and you stand up and you decide that you're going to take control and responsibility for your own fate, your own well-being, so forth and so on, it is something that you can't relax, you can't let go of. It is something you have to be mindful of. Do you have to sweat every freaking day or moment? No. But you need to be consciously aware that for everything that you release your grip on, the chances of it deciding to do whatever it's got to do the way it does it best can happen. And as sorcerers, or witches, or magi, or magus, or whatever, wizards, whatever you guys want to call yourselves, the responsibility is there, no matter what the title. These things, you don't have to hold on to them with a death grip, but you most definitely have to be aware that you have taken upon yourself the right to control your own fate. You have taken the fate away from the gods, and you've said, I am responsible. I will wield this. Blah, 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 yakety schmackety on down the road. Well, it's not that they're assholes and they're like, okay, let's see if you can do any better. No, because that's what they're there for, is to help guide mankind, not to hold your hand. They gladly give up their, here you go, take your fate in your own hands, there you go for it, do it, But they're there to guide us, and they're also there to, protect us, and, and help us design the full picture of what we're wishing to control and what we're wishing to put out there. Now, also, underneath magical responsibility, let's get to sacrifices and offerings. Now, it's very important that I throw this out there because, it's like, for example, when I uphold my word on a thing, and I decide, well, I'm going to do this an offering unto the gods. This I do in honor of the gods. Then when I do it, I don't look at it like a task or a job or a chore. It's important that you do it because you truly want to. Because the more of your own heart and the more of your own soul and yourself that you put into something, the more meaningful it is. And the gods or the spirits or whatever you're working with that you're holding and keeping your word to, they sense that, they take that, and then that offering is actually a real offering. It's kind of like, asking somebody for a $5 bill so you can go down there and get you a $5 lunch or something like, or whatever, from a fast food restaurant, and and they've got a sandwich they've cut in half, and they're like, oh well, yeah, $5, but here, eat this half sandwich. May not exactly be what you want, what you were wanting, what you were expecting out of the deal. Well, this in a sense is a lot like the spirits are, when they're giving offerings. I don't care if I'm lighting incense. A little trick I picked up a while back, was that I raise the energy in my heart center, that I fill it with love and joy and compassion. And I cast it onto the incense, and I charge the incense with it. That way, when I light it, I'm not just lighting this object that has herbs stuck to it or anything like that, and oils and whatever. I'm also putting my own energy into it. And when you do this, that offering is a true offering. It's one that's actually accepted, because you can always tell when your offering is, accepted or not, or at least I can. I'm pretty sure some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And then, lastly but not least, let's go into cycles. Oh, God's blessed the cycles of the universes and all the worlds and all the selves and all this, that, and the other. Cycles, cycles, cycles. And I'm not talking about motorcycles or bicycles. I'm talking about these cycles, the order of things. Like when you are walking the 7 gates and their orders and so forth and so on, did you truly get out of it what you were supposed to? Did you truly understand what each step was about? Because only you will know whether you did or you didn't. Nobody else. And this isn't something you could be tested on to see how awesome you are or how much knowledge you have or, whether or not you got all there was to get out of it. Only you will know. Only you, your watcher, and the gods involved know what you got out of it. That's why I like the Necronomicon, the Simonomicon, whatever you want to call it, because it is a solitary thing. It is a path all its own. The book is beautiful. It has everything you'd ever need for any of it. But getting back onto the cycles of things. But it's also important to remember that though you walk through it, though you did these steps, you will find yourself having to come back. Whether it's during the days of the week, knowing which one is to which of the gods, and honoring the God of that day. If you're going to do spell work on a day, the very first thing that I would do is follow the cycle of things. Thank the God that rules over it. Thank them. I don't care if you think you're above and beyond them and, I've already walked that gate, so I don't have to work with them. It's kind of cruel, kind of unusual, especially considering you're supposed to rely on them in the further workings in where you're not dealing with them at all, because they are the gods and goddesses of order, of construction, from the chaos. And therefore, what have you got to do? Rely on them, call on them, speak to them, communicate with them. So once again, you'd call upon the God and the day that you would be doing the workings. Light some incense candle. Don't ask them for nothing, just thank them. Thank them for their presence and their being. And then go about your work, your spell work or whatever. Because it's important that you recognize them, because you're recognizing the aspect of yourself as well. And this empowers the cycle of things. You're trying to put your life in order, You're trying to better your financial situation, your living arrangements, your whatever. Your job, you want a better job. You want anything in life. Well, the first thing you want to do is look at what heads it, what leads it. Just honor it. Don't ask it for anything, just honor it. Because acknowledging it is the key to empowering it or to having its blessing upon your workings. And that's something they just don't tell you enough about. That's just something they don't even really discuss, not really. But it's just called good manners. And this, once again, falls back into responsibilities. You have the responsibility to be thoughtful, knowledgeable, so forth and so on. And then you have to be capable, able, willing, and not just willing and thinking, I really want to do this, but never doing it. No, you've got to do it. You've got to fulfill the goal, the working. You have to fulfill the physical work, whatever it takes for it, whether it's the ritual, whether it's the calls, whether it's the visits, whether it's whatever. And this is all part of the cycle. And magic is a never-ending cycle. Life itself, the birth, the life, the death cycle. And death isn't death, once I've said it before, is transformation. You have gone from one form into another form. Just like when you're born, you're a little bitty thing. Do you remain that way? No, you transform into a better form, solid form, one that can hold your own head up, that your head ain't bobbling all over the place, where you can take care of yourself. And then you go feeble, and then you die. And once again, it's not dying, you're transforming. You're going from the physical into spiritual. And then it begins the cycle all over again. And this is where magical responsibility and the cycle of things come together as one. With that being said and done, I wish each and every one of you peace, blessings, power. Spirits conjure it, God's created. It's a lie. Till later.